Hello, this is going to be a video about free speech, but it's also a video thanking all the people who've subscribed to me over the past couple of weeks. Suddenly, my sub rate has gone up astonishingly high in a very short time. And it's because of that that I've been able to engage with a lot more people, and that's got my mind working on various topics a bit more. So in every way it's been good for me as well as gratifying. And as I said, thank you very much to all of you. I've had a few conversations about the Liberalist meetup in London a couple of weeks ago, and one in particular gave me cause to contemplate what we're supposed to be about. I was asked, what is the Liberalist agenda, or something along those lines? And the only thing I could think of is that being a liberalist means we have a belief in the right to free speech, and that governments are clamping down on that more and more, and they shouldn't be allowed to get away with it. My correspondent responded by saying something like, yeah, that's the impression I got. No agenda, just some ideas about free speech. Those weren't his exact words, but that was the gist of what he was saying. Now, I did want to respond to him that liberalists are not a political party. We don't have to have an agenda. There were people at that meetup, as many from the left as from the right. We actually did a straw poll on it right there at the time. We were all united by one ideal. That is, you can't be either on the left or the right and get your point across if you can't speak your thoughts. Concomitant to that, I've been having another conversation with a free speech activist in Canada, and I realised that there's a problem selling free speech to the average voter. I'm not saying that the average voter is too stupid to get properly engaged, although I do have a shrewd suspicion that most SJWs, and especially Antifa, think exactly that. And that's why they feel it's their duty to don the black gear, the hoodie and the face mask to get engaged on behalf of the bovine masses. But what I do know is that the average voter is usually far more concerned with day-to-day things than with great political abstracts. And for very good reasons. When I was interviewing in a poor area of North London a few years ago, the people I spoke to were far more upset by the fact that it had been like 3 months since vandals threw bricks into the street light, and since then it hasn't been repaired and the street is now dark and dangerous. Far more worried about that than the national debt. And why shouldn't they be? They're certainly far more worried about that than the idea of free speech. Until we can convince people like that free speech will repair that street light, then there'll be no large-scale political movement to push for free speech. Unfortunately, it's in any government's interest to convince people that restriction of freedom will be much better for repairing that street light. And that's what they're busily engaged in doing. I can prove this in the following way. Britain has far more video surveillance cameras than any other country in the world. Nearly 6 million of them, I believe. 1 camera for every 11 people on these islands. There are all sorts: street cameras, number plate recognition devices, body-worn videos and so on, even drones. In most cases, most people would regard these cameras as a restriction of liberty and an unwarranted intrusion of the state into private lives. However, the government has convinced everyone that CCTV units, that is the street cameras, are necessary for prevention of crime. And without them, there'd be chaos. Actually, they do nothing of the sort. The only thing that the ubiquity of CCTV has done is to have influenced the fashion choices of young people and increased the sale of t-shirts with attached hoods. In the case of street cameras, the crimes are frequently committed right under those very cameras, with the police, well, perhaps half an hour's drive away. How on earth would CCTV have protected that street light in such circumstances? No way. But then people are told that it will. And there goes another bit of our freedom. And in what way have all those cameras protected the young women of Telford from generations of predation by Muslim gangs? Ironically enough, the cameras, which make our lives an open book, have done nothing to protect those girls, while the laws which close our mouths have done everything to throw them into greater danger. But for some reason, people aren't linking things up in that way. Because most people are more worried about whether schools are reasonable, hospitals functioning, and eggs are affordable in the supermarkets. As long as these are in place, free speech will always be a bridge too far. And that's how it'll stay until all us free speechers find some way to convince the public at large that free speech means functioning streetlights and cheaper eggs.